everyone, and thank you for joining me on this episode of Matcha Talk. I'm really excited to bring you my next guest, Ian Dorian. He is an incredibly talented comic book artist, creative art director, illustrator, and martial artist. Yes, I'm super excited to have my Matcha Talk with Ian. So everybody, grab your matchas and let's get started with Matcha Talk with Ian Dorian. Hi everyone, and welcome to Matcha Talk. I'm so excited to introduce my guest, Ian Dorian. He's an amazing comic book artist, sculptor, creative director, martial artist. He's worked with studios such as Marvel, 20th Century Fox. Welcome, Ian.
Hi, Mary. How are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you so much for taking time to have this talk with me and share you, your art, and your journey with us. So,
It's a pleasure.
thank you. And I'm excited. I asked you, did you bring your matcha? So you have your virtual matcha.
I have my virtual matcha. It's right here.
Thank you.
I'm going to put it down over here. Yeah.
So tell me, Ian, I'm so excited to get started because, as you know, I'm a huge, huge fan of your art. You're amazing and so talented, and I'm absolutely honored to have you on my Matcha Talk to share. So give me a little bit. We started talking earlier, but your background, because that was, I was like, I need to record now.
I'll give you a background. I'll short and sweet, and then we can add when we need to.
Perfect.
First, let's say thank you so much to you and everybody who's watching this. You're awesome because I don't just do it for me. I do it for you. I do it for everyone. So that's a big deal to me. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Ian.
Okay, so background. Grew up in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Grew up with just my mother. My mother was sick young, and it was just my brothers and sisters and I. There were 6 of us. And by the time I was just about 15, we were orphans. So one of the things that helped me through, besides my aunt and my uncle, who were fantastic, was I was going to a school for the gifted and talented. And that was started in the 1900s. And what was that was started in
you were
in the
so young, so just stop. Okay.
That started in the 1970s. And yes, I was in the 70s. It's not retro. Maybe I'm retro now. It's like full circle. Anyway.
70s rock.
Exactly. Anyway, so I went to gifted school, and I was surrounded by lots of great artists and dancers, performers, and scientists, and I practiced all of it. I performed theater. I did ballet for years.
Wow.
Acted, and we made films, and that's how I got interest in film and television. And I was one of the fine artists, a small group that they selected. And I exhibited a strong interest in sculpture and obviously comic books very early. In the 4th grade, I created the Opera Club and the Comic Book Appreciation Club, and I led both clubs.
Wow.
Jumping fast forward about another 18 years, I'm in college, and I started a group for theater and performing arts and artists. And I was the head for the martial arts program on campus.
Wow. Well, I'm excited about that. So you're artistic, you've done dance, you've done theater, comic books, and now martial arts. So, which I love, absolutely love and adore, as you know, right?
Just a practitioner. Yep, I'm just a practitioner. But I have to say, I was very lucky in a couple of ways. Number one, I had a lot of support from the people who were around me. not necessarily financially, although that was there too, only in small bits. I was not a wealthy kid. As a matter of fact, I grew up on welfare. And I stood on the cheese line to get my 5-pound block of cheese from the government. I know what that's like. And I did it in the middle of winter. I remember. So for everybody out there that isn't born with a silver spoon, I'll put it this way, it don't matter. You just have to, that's inside of you, that special gold, that platinum, that's, you don't need it in the pocket. You need it in the brain and you need it in the heart. If you have that, you're going to be, you're not only golden, you're sparkling. It's just going to stay that way because it's who you are. Mm-hmm. So forget about the other stuff. Challenges come, but defeating them makes you even greater. So that being said, my brother and I were always, my twin brother, Dorian, and I were always extremely interested in learning as much as we could. Mm-hmm. And that's something I'd say more than anything you need, more than talent, more than anything. You need the desire to learn. Mm-hmm. And absolutely. To be quite honest with you, it's like a pyre, a raging flame that's never put out. And if you have that kind of zest for life and for learning, you will have that as part of your life. Mm-hmm. That will be your life story, mm-hmm.
It's a curiosity, too. I think it's just, you want to learn, you're curious, and that's how you grow as well, as to expand yourself in your life.
It's true. I really believe that. And I have to tell you, there's one other thing that I'm certain of, is that I'm always willing to know that I don't know everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm always willing to look at other people and the achievements they've made, mm-hmm. and learn from it. And I learn from people all the time. And I have to say, I learned from guys like Bill Sienkiewicz, Mark Teixeira, you name it. But I also learned from kids. Mm-hmm. I'm an assistant director for a school for the advancement of art and sciences, and I've been a part of the school for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I was a teacher for many years, and against my own real desires, but knowing that I was familiar with the school, that's in Westfield, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. It's called the New Jersey School for the Arts, Summer School for the Arts. I knew that because I was so familiar with the program and the children, I wanted to be able to help write new courses in the sciences and in the arts. And I wanted to be able to administrate and help the kids, basically. So I actually came on as an assistant director, which is kind of like an assistant principal or mm-hmm. a vice principal. And we wrote new programs, we wrote new courses, and I learned from those kids. When I think I'm so clever, I'm definitely going to do something. It's just when I thought I figured out what I needed to know, right. They're going to let me know that I'm really just kind of at the beginning again,
Absolutely.
So I don't have kids of my own, but I have to tell you, because of the school with hundreds of kids, mm-hmm. and because of my brothers and sisters who all have children and their children have children, I have a plethora of beautiful human beings that are still picking their nose and at the same time smarter than I am. So, it's from out the babes, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. My babies all have paws. So, my Ricos and Patty and Bella, definitely. And they are my heart and my muses. I learn from them every day. They make me a better person. And of course, my nieces and my nephew. And what I love about them is they're so honest, right? And they don't care about what you think or what you say. They're just like, no, I don't like it. Or, yes, that's great, and you are always learning, because they don't have this like misconception or judging or wondering. Like, they're just like so true to who they are.
Well, that is so true. And I just want to say that's kind of where the stories come from and the mm-hmm. ideas. I've written stories with male characters, female characters. I've worked with great writers who are male and female who write many kinds of characters. We even write aliens, and we're not aliens. or maybe we all are. The
Who
special
knows?
science or what, History Channel, whatever,
Right.
But I will say this. You don't need to necessarily be that gender to write about that gender. What you need to know are the things that connect us as people.
Absolutely.
So I'm working on a story of a character who's an orphan and happens to be a female. Well, I had 4 sisters, and I'm very close with them, and I paid attention to them very much, and I've heard their stories. And when I have questions, I ask them. But I do know what it was like to be an orphan. I don't try to write a character that I don't know. So any character I write, male, female, young, old, child, I go back to the things that I know about when I was a child and the doubts and fears I had. Those are the things that I write about because we all understand that. We all understand rejection, doubt, fear, loneliness, desire to be appreciated, maybe even depression. And so these are the kinds of things I can imbue in a character, regardless of whether they're male or female, young or old. And those things are true about humans. And so I would suggest to anybody who ever wants to create or write, just remember that there are a lot more connections that we have than even divide and separation. And pull out those resources that are true in that sense, as we experience them.
Absolutely. And I agree with you, Ian. I think that, for character development, especially for me, because I love to develop characters, right? So, and make all of them, each of them very rich and just having their own depth and feeling and everything. Of course, it relates to a part of you as well that you share with others. So, and there are so many different levels. I mean, even in comedy, it's not always super funny. There's definitely a little bit of drama and a little bit of heartache. And, you may be sad and really feel that sadness. And I think as artists, it's so important for us to share our voices and our stories so that they do connect to, others in this world. And what's so wonderful is that I'm sitting here with you. And we're having this incredible talk, and which I'm so over the moon about. And, through technology, we can share our voices and our stories and connect to other artists around the world and really inspire them. And I love that you're saying that because I want to know, so for someone who's sitting, who knows? They're sitting in their home and they're watching this and they've been kind of drawing and sketching, but they're not quite sure that they want to share it with anyone because they're afraid of criticism, doubt. Am I really good enough to share this? What would you say about that?
Okay, I'll say 2 things, but I always say 5. So I always say this to my students. I'm also a professor. I always say there's 2 things, but there'll be a lot more. I'll just start with that.
Right.
So the first thing I would say is, believe it or not, doubt will always be there. So get comfortable with the fact that you're going to have doubt. When you get comfortable with it, it's kind of like a buddy that's there. You don't notice it anymore, or an alarm that's been ringing for so long that you don't even hear it. It'll be there. Don't try to fight it. It'll probably stay. So just say, you know what? You're going to be with me for the long haul. I'm just not hearing you. So
right. You're over there.
You're over there. Get in the back of the line. And right. I think this is one of the philosophies that's actually helped me get past my own doubts and fears, is not trying to fight them so much as to just, you know what, they're here, but, I can't hear them, in one ear, out the other. But I know lots of people who are much more well-known than me and much more achieved in their respective fields. And they tell me the same thing. They do have fears and doubts, but, we try not to show it. We want to show our best version of ourselves. Now, how do we do that? We do it with our work, by putting our work out there. Are we criticized? Oh, yes. You will be criticized.
Right.
The question isn't whether you're going to fail or whether you're going to be criticized. I look at success like a ladder, while other people may not. I take a step on that ladder. The next step, I don't get to the top. I don't get what I want. But I didn't fail because I didn't get what I wanted. I actually got one rung higher. So I tell people, when you're making these steps, it feels like failure. It really does. But it's failure, actually. Those are just steps to success.
Absolutely. And
So
yes.
Go ahead.
I love it because you're growing as well. You're not ever failing, right? You're always winning. You're growing, right? So that's the thing with every failure, so to speak, right? Because I was saying this to Jason, my husband. I said, well, failure, fail again. Everyone's always like, keep failing. It's good. And you do, because with every so-called failure, you've grown, or you've found something out about yourself, or you've nurtured another part, or maybe seen a different direction.
Oh, it's so true. So I would say to those people out there who have their drawings hidden away, or they don't have names out, and people don't know who they are, every single one of us has been there. And in many ways, we're still not known by many other people around the planet. I mean, if you have 1 million followers, you have a very small number of the human race.
Absolutely.
So keep it in perspective.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
And be careful what you wish for. So it works this way. You go back and you look back at your work another month from now. Just make sure you do a little work every day.
Absolutely.
Even if 5 minutes, I kid you not, 5 minutes will make you happier. You will be happier, you'll be more successful, you'll become better, and you won't even realize you did until at the end of the month, you go back to the first piece of paper on day one and you say, hopefully it's April because it's April Fool's. And you say, okay, this is the end of April. Look at the first day. What a fool. I have learned so much.
Yes.
And just have to have those small incremental growth. Don't fight the fear. It's going to be there. Accept it and kind of just don't let it control you completely. And when you get used to not succeeding in front of people, you'll start to get comfortable with that. And quite honestly, that builds confidence. And confidence is seen. I can see it when an artist makes a stroke. I can see it when a dancer makes a move. And I can see it when a fighter makes a strike. I can see it. And that confidence comes out of practice and repetition and failure. And I want to say that I learned so much about failure from martial arts. You can be quote unquote gifted, et cetera, but I need to tell you, honestly, when I start my practice any given day, I personally still do as my master would, or one of my masters, or any good practitioner, start with the basics, the basic stance, basic forms. Why do we do this? Why does a grand master that's 97 years old still do the same basic stance and start with that they did when they were 4? The reason why is because a good foundation is what you build on. So you must always maintain a good foundation because it gets hard to keep it. You need to keep it. And that's called craft also. I'll say in terms of the artist. A lot of people don't know, unless you've done really bad acting at times like I have, and occasionally something okay, it's because I was really focusing and doing my due diligence with my work and my studies and my dialogue, etc. Honestly, craft is more important than you know. And I'm actually speaking right now to the people who are watching. It looks like someone had more of something than you did, and that's the reason. Not true. I'm sorry. Not true. Okay? Not everyone has the same skills. Your job is to work your craft as much as possible to discover your strengths. and then utilize those. So what I will say is this: publicly promote your strengths. Privately emphasize your weakness and work on it.
I love that. Absolutely amazing. Like I'm like sitting here like smiling. It's so, I mean, truly, Ian, you're absolutely spot on. And you've covered like so much from like inspiring, right? Face the fear. It's going to be there. Face it and do it anyway. You know, put it out there. And like you said, absolutely do your best work. You know, something that you're really, really proud of. And when it comes from your heart, you know, at least it's true to you and to your voice, which is really, really important to honor that part of yourself.
Absolutely. And remember, you know, not everybody has the same flavor.
Right.
Some people like vanilla, some people like chocolate, some people like strawberry, and some people don't like
all three.
Yeah, and some don't like ice cream at all. I don't know who they are.
Right.
But some don't like ice cream. So there's not everyone has a sweet tooth. Right. So the point is that if you make something and you're the best version of yourself,
right,
it will not be wrong. Mm-hmm. And as long as you keep being the best version of yourself,
right, it
will not be wrong, because you will, and I mean this sincerely, you will succeed.
Yes, absolutely. You have to. And you know, I was saying patience, perseverance, persistence, right? So you have to keep going. And like you said, Ian, make sure that you create every day. No matter where you want to go, start with where you are and what you can do right now, right? So write, paint, sketch.
People don't know this, but artists don't just draw.
Right.
You see, everyone's an artist inside. As a matter of fact, I don't think it, I know it. So what they think is an artist is their craft, which helps build their language and the visual cues that they've developed for us and for their work. So that is very necessary, but it's only one part of it. It's an integral part, but it's only one part.
Right.
The other is that you're an artist all the time. Artists don't just talk. The way that we learn to speak clearly is because we listen so well. We listen to the world around us. We look at things, we see them, we discover them, we rediscover them, we investigate them. You know, I find that a lot of students say to me, and a lot of people who bring me their artwork at shows and they want me to look at it, and I try as much as I can to look at as much work as possible. What I tell them is, you know, you have to study as much as possible. You know, Neil Adams said to me when I first went into his studio in my early 20s, I guess I was like 20, 21, not long out of high school. And I was brought there by Lou Small Jr., who was doing a book called Ms. Mystic. And this is in 19, again. And Neil looked at my work and said, I can't hire you. So I figured I'm going to get up and leave. And he said, no, stay here. I said, He said, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to teach you. He didn't ask for money.
Right.
He didn't ask for anything. He said, my file room is in the back. This is Pete Stone, my head writer. He's going to give you scripts. Here's some comic books. You go home, you do the work, you come back. I will review your work.
Wow.
And I said, why will you do that? I mean, you have a huge studio and you have incredible responsibilities. I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't see any other artists offering that to me that was that busy and that famous. And I honestly don't know if anybody that's that busy and that famous today that's doing that. But he took the time, and I have to remember that. And that's why I take the time, because I learned that as a good example. He said to me, there was a guy who came to me, and most people in the industry know this story at this point. He said, there was a guy who came to me who wanted to work for me, and I couldn't hire him, but I helped him. He came back to me, did some more work. I couldn't hire him, but I helped him. He came back to me with more artwork. He told me he got a job at Marvel. I said, great, good for you. And I supported him. Well, today, Frank Miller is doing great.
Well, and the thing is, just as saying, though, you know, he saw something amazing in you. I mean, truly, he saw your talent. He did. And I truly believe that he saw that and it was like, you know what? I'm going to take him under my wing, and we're going to do this together.
Yeah, I think he believed in Lou Small Jr., and so he believed in me, and he saw that I was ambitious.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you can be anywhere in the spectrum, ready, not ready. Mm-hmm. No one ever knows if they're ready. And honestly, when you get hired, you don't have a job forever. You have a job for that moment. Mm-hmm. And then once again, you're back to the person who's not hired anymore. People don't realize that. Mm-hmm. It's a constant struggle, but not a bad struggle, because it's a struggle that you believe in. Right. So it becomes a lifestyle. And this is what I'm getting at. So when you have your craft, you should know that you're creating all the time. Mm-hmm. So you're creating when you're out on the street. You're creating and you're thinking and you're studying. Do you know, when I go outside and I'm looking at the trees, I'm drawing and painting the trees. Mm. So I'm not just drawing and painting the trees in my head. I'm drawing and painting the wind. I'm thinking about the feeling of it, the experience of it. When I draw figures, and this is a little secret, mm-hmm. I learned anatomy because I drew figures over and over and over again. And I learned many other techniques that I'm still improving on. And I'm aware of that. But the most important thing when I sit down to draw is I think about what it is I'm trying to say with the image. I am not thinking about how to draw the arm or the leg or the head. I am thinking about what it is I need to express. Now, where did I learn this from? I don't know. Actually, no, I do know. I learned it from ballet. I learned it from Baryshnikov, that is. Mm-hmm. I learned Michelangelo. Yeah. I learned it from Picasso. And that means studying them. Mm-hmm. I learned it from my school teachers. I learned it from the young artists that sat next to me that did things that I wasn't quite doing at the time. And I learned it from watching other people. I learned it by applying it. And what I realized is that if you're in the moment, if you're there, if you're living that moment, the drawing makes sense. You know, I met a guy years ago, completely untrained sculptor. And I had been a sculptor. I went to Italy after I got my my bachelor's degree in sculpture. I went to Pietrasanta in northern Tuscany, and I studied there because I had gotten a very, very late acceptance, which we were talking about earlier.
Right.
I got into the School of Figurative Art. Mm-hmm. The director was David Davidson, mm-hmm. and it was on 111 Franklin Street. And the school had already accepted all the people. They had their graduate students. And I was out of my bachelor's degree. I wasn't sure what to do. And I brought him a wax figure and a photograph of an art piece. And I said, I realize I haven't applied or anything, but would you take a look at this and tell me what you think? And so he did. And he brought me to his office. He sat me down next to his table. And in his table, there was a drawer. And he said, go in that drawer, open that drawer, and tell me what you think. So in the drawer were two black binders. I pull out the binders, I open them up, and I flip through them. It's slides, okay? So, it's a while ago. So I go through the slides, I look at them, I put it all back, I put it in the drawer, and I said, nice. And he said, tell me what you really think. And a little tongue-in-cheek, but I said, I like the woman in the second binder, and I'm sorry, I don't remember their names. It was too long to remember. I loved her work. She was fantastic. And then there was this one guy in the other book, and he said, I kind of feel the same way too. And then we walked around the building for 3 hours. He said, wow. I'm going to speak to the administration, and we're going to let you know. A few days later, he calls me up. He says, we're willing to make room for you. We're going to allow you into the graduate program, but you'll have to do a few things. We filled out your application forms for you, and we're offering you a grant. But you need to write an artist statement. So I submitted the artist statement. And in my artist statement, it says, I wish to be a marble carver. They don't offer marble carving there, or at least they didn't at the time. He insisted that I change it, and that way the administration can accept me. I said, nope, not going to do it. Stubborn guy. So I was a kid, I barely got to high school. So he said, well, if you're not going to do that, you should go to Pietrasanta. I said, what's that? He said, it's not a what, it's a where. So I found out where Pietrasanta was. And, there was a study course for a summer course. So I went and I took it. I carved marble. I learned about fashioning tools. I did my own wax figures and emulated them in stone, and then returned back to the U.S. After that, I did a portfolio. I came back and I did some teaching. I was assistant teaching for anatomy and advanced figure drawing. And then at the college I had attended. Then I applied to graduate school, but I didn't want to go to graduate school and go to a school. I decided I'm not going to do figurative art for a while. I want to explore art that's different from my own art. I don't really understand because I had been a traditionalist my whole life. Now, think about it. I had already done comics. I learned from Neil. And by the way, in case anyone's wondering, I couldn't get to the office enough. And Neil was like, where are you? You're not coming in. I said, Neil, I have exams. When's your exam? It was on Friday. Okay, so what about Wednesday and Thursday? I said, Neil, I have to study for the exam on Wednesday and Thursday. It's something that was important to me. And it wasn't a dig, and he wasn't being condescending. He said, at this point, comics demand so much that right now you may have to decide comics or college. And I decided college. I would finish college first. As a matter of fact, years later, not to jump too much, but years later, I found myself teaching at the Kubert School, at that time, the Joe Kubert School. And Joe and I became close. We had lunch every Wednesday with Hy Eisman and Erwin Hazen, and we would tease each other like crazy. And Joe, and we'd laugh and fall on the floor. It was wonderful to see these guys laughing on the floor. I mean, literally, Joe fell to the floor one. Two memories that I will always cherish because, these guys are my heroes after all.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, of course. Joe allowed me to be in his studio, and so did Adam, by the way, and they both taught me a lot. While I was teaching there, they knew more about comics and sequential art, and so they taught me even more. And, I told Joe about what happened with Neil, and Joe said, Neil was right, and what you did was right as well. He said, it was a good thing you got a degree in an education. I said, really? You sure? Because I had shown my work to Mark Silvestri. He'll never remember this. I don't even know if he ever remembers me when I see him. I mean, he's a wonderful person and a wonderful artist. I just don't know if he'll ever remember me. But he did tell me, he looked at my work and he said, did you do this? This was in Pittsburgh. This is in 95. This is in 95. He said, did you do this artwork? I said, I'd really love to work for you for Top Cow. And he said, I can always use another artist, and this is really good. Send it in and write your information, and we'd love to see you there. So I left. I started walking away thinking, this isn't going to happen, because I had that attitude. I thought, I can't be good enough. This can't be right. He must have made a mistake. Maybe somehow he thought it was something else. So if someone grabs my arm behind me as I'm walking, and it's a woman, and I can't recall who it was at the time. And she said to me, you are going to submit your work, right? And I said, I don't know. And she said, he doesn't say that to everybody who shows him their work. He only says it to people he thinks he can hire. If you send in the work, you're going to get hired. I didn't have my master's degree yet, and I always wanted my master's degree, and I wanted to be a sculptor. And I said, I'm going to go back to college. And that's what I did. I went back to college. So it's the second time. After I got my master's degree, I applied for a job at McFarlane Studios, or for, I can't remember. I applied for a job at McFarlane Studios. Totally didn't expect to get accepted. I flew all the way out to San Diego Comic-Con. I was broke. I had barely a dime. I couldn't even afford to get into the show every day. And I certainly couldn't afford to buy anything or eat anything. I barely ate the days I was there. But I did drop off my traditional sculptures, not superheroes, nothing like that. Classical figures. As a matter of fact, some of that stuff's still online. Would you know?
Which, by the way, everyone will be able to see on my website. So fear not. I'm going to have links to see Ian's work, which is amazing. Yes, definitely.
Well, just you to know, a lot of those sculptures are between 12 and 20 years old. I did those, like I said, not long out of high school. There are some new ones, by the way.
I'm sure there are.
But I submitted classical sculptures. Do you know, I said, well, they're not going to call me. I knew I wasn't good enough. There it was again, in the back of my mind, or maybe in the front of my mind, that doubt and that fear. Well, yeah, they called me.
Of course they did.
Thank you. It's very kind of you. They called me, and I went there and I saw the facilities, and they did offer me a job. And I realized when that job came that, you know what they needed me to do wasn't what I had wanted to do. Not that they were doing great work. They were doing amazing work. It just, what they needed from me wasn't what I was looking to do. So, realizing that after meeting them and going through, but they were wonderful. They were extremely kind to me. I opted out. That's when I went to teach at the Kubert School and taught at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia. I was teaching in the illustration program for third, fourth year portfolio students. I took the illustrators who really didn't think outside the box. It was my goal. I hope it was of some benefit. Someone's probably going to say I was a lousy teacher. Somebody else was going to say I was the greatest, and everybody else.
Doubt that. I think.
No, he was.
Yeah.
You know, vanilla chocolate. You get, you know how
strawberry.
That goes. Yeah, exactly. So what I tried to do was the artists that seemed really creative, I tried to help give them a little structure to build their portfolio and to focus their ideas by challenging them. The illustrators, I tried to challenge them by asking them to do things outside the box, literally. So I had one student, and honestly, again, it's been many years. I had one student, and I don't want to, I think it's more important I talk about the artwork. One student was doing these beautiful drawings of environments, just these deep perspective environments, very quiet, very still. And I found them to be very fascinating. So I said, here's what I want you to do. And this is an example of the way I think a creative person should allow themselves to think, meaning you already know how to, you people out there. You just have to allow it. I said to this person, you have two options that will truly bring home the message you're trying to make. One is to draw this scene as large as you can, as wide as you can see. Get a giant wall and paint an environment so that when people walk next to it, it fills their entire cone of vision. That's the four corners, north, south, east, and west, when you look straight ahead before you lose what's beyond that. That's your cone of vision. So I would tell them, draw the image larger than your cone of vision so that when the viewer's there, they're deeply immersed in your environment. That's an immersive experience. The second, remember I said I always do two things, right? So it's comparatives. So the second thing was this. If you want, go the other direction. Here's what I'd like you to do. Make it as small as possible. The reason why is, I said, maybe you even want to drill a hole in the wall and put the image in the wall. This way, you have this vast, deep space in this tiny little hole. And once again, you've done the same thing. You've gotten your viewer to become immersed in your story. And even a single image is a story.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The idea perpetuates, whether I do comics or sculptures or toys, action figures, as people might call them, mm-hmm. Or oil paintings, mm-hmm. Or animation. It's about immersion. It's about allowing the viewer the opportunity to become immersed in your story. Yes. And believe me, you do not finish your story. I want everyone to know this as a storyteller. Mm-hmm. The person who finishes your story is the person who watches or reads your story. They are the completion of that story. Mm-hmm. And that's relative. Like Einstein's theory, mm-hmm. It's relative in almost a literal sense. So not necessarily the death of the author, but maybe so. I don't know. But it means it's a collaboration. Always remember you're collaborating with your viewer.
Right. Absolutely.
You have your creative mind. You leave it for them. Again, they're going to interpret it. It doesn't mean you should change your vision. Mm-hmm. Because honestly, I wouldn't ask someone else to change theirs, because then it's not theirs. And I'm not a big fan of inauthentic work.
Absolutely.
And this is very, I saw your work and I loved it. And we kind of saw each other's work and we really started to like each other's stuff. And, mm-hmm. and it was because you have your voice and you tell stories about things that matter to you and the way you see it. And that's what I want. That's the only thing I want from Mary. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, that's what you're going to get from me, Ian. Talk about it's the truth, and being authentic to your voice, I think, and staying true to that voice and having your audience enjoy it. And I agree with you. They're going to interpret it the way that they want, relate to it, the way that they see situations, which is just the best, I think, as an artist.
Yeah, and we expose our strengths and our weaknesses, but sometimes none of that matters. Just do it.
Absolutely.
Really, literally. Just get it on paper. Mm-hmm. If you're a singer, sing outside, sing in front of people. Sure, people might not like you, but so what? That's what you have to say. And you just keep doing it. Let me tell you what. If a person who delivers apples every day wakes you up in the 4 o'clock in the morning and you're sick and tired of hearing them and you're like, shut up. And they're like, apples, apples. You just want that guy to go away. But on the day your grandma's coming, or you got to go to your grandma's and she wants to make you her homemade apple pie, guess who you're going to think about at 4 o'clock in the morning before you have to go to...
The guy with the apples.
Exactly. So in other words, keep selling the apples. Eventually, somebody's going to want apples.
Absolutely. Okay? Absolutely. I love that. And I'm just sitting and hearing you, Ian, is just like, I'm just like sitting there smiling and like glowing and just completely, aligning and understanding everything that you're saying. And I'm so excited that you're sharing, you and, your just everything that you are and your lessons and your journey, and to me and to everyone that's watching. And I'm just like taking it all in because it's incredible. And I'm honored.
Oh, thank you so much. I'd love to tell you about what I have worked on the last few years and what I'm working on now.
I'm so, because that was, you are right on my page, because I was going to ask you, what are you working on now? Kind of what's Ian doing, right? And then I also want to know, which is like so much, hence you need to have a cup of matcha, because you have a lot going on, right? The virtual matcha. That's right. Have a big sip. Because I want to know what you, Ian, are doing, and how Dorian, who gives so much to everybody, especially young artists, what do you do for you to give back to yourself, fill your cup, and, so that you can then go and inspire other people?
I will tell you that I give myself, I don't know. I need time to think about that.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm honest with you. First of all, I do believe that when you give to other people, you give yourself.
Absolutely,
So
I
you
do.
can, I believe that socially, and I believe it politically,
Hmm.
but we won't get into that. So
Right.
be, beyond that, I'll do that in my books.
We'll creatively express that.
You'll see where I'm coming.
Right.
Just read the book. So here's some shout outs, okay, to the people who supported me, given me work, and believed in me when I work. Certainly my entire family, the Pelias family, the Dorian family, the Lewis family. And I want to say, without my family, I wouldn't be happy in this world. They're wonderful people. And they've supported me in every possible way, emotionally, with love, with hugs, with financially. And let me tell you, it's a hard struggle for years to make it, even if you're skilled, even if you're at it every day. So you really do need that. The other thing I would say for me to relax, there are a couple of things. I love to work in a garden. I have a garden on my balcony, and I love to grow plants and vegetables and fruits. And I cook. My grandmother was a chef in France, and my mother was a great cook, and my big sister was a great cook. And I wanted to be like them because I love food, but I don't love food. Let me rephrase. As it was said in Ratatouille, if I don't like it, I don't swallow. You know what?
That was
didn't sound.
amazing. That was amazing. Well said. Well
What
said,
was
Ratatouille.
the critic of the film in Ratatouille? Somebody will help out, and they'll probably text or something about what. Thank you, by the way, that person. But I really love delicious food, and I love art is the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful crafts in the world, and it uses every sense. You have 6 senses, and it uses every single one of them. And I'm really impressed by great chefs and bakers, and I love to cook, and that's what I do to relax. That's what I do to get ideas. But I get my stuff as much as I can from my garden.
I love that. I love that. I know I love to cook. Jason loves to cook. Like we both, we love being in the kitchen together and just creating. And it's the best. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all have a different flavor. So it's really good to learn your flavors and your tastes and to put that into your food. Also, you can make sure your food is relatively healthy.
Yes. Key points.
You put 2 teaspoons or even tablespoons of sugar into something, a large thing that you're going to share with a family member. That doesn't even come close to a can of soda. Can of soda's got like a cup of sugar.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
Hence
and
my matchas and water.
I'm going to have to be a matcha because and get my energy from that.
Yes.
But the shout outs from the outside of the family, Bill Sienkiewicz, Mark Texiera, one of my best friends. Bill and Mark have come in to back me up and in a real way. And these guys are big names on their own. They don't need to do it, and they don't need my money or anybody else's money. And by the way, it's not my money. I work with a company called PKMM Entertainment. And we've known each other. The owner of the company and I have known each other for over 20 years. And we really trust each other. And when you have a bond and a friendship and you're willing to accept each other as you are, even though you're quite different, and you're willing to accept one another's nuances and even failures, you stick together. And that's hard to replace for a different boss, if you will. It's a kind of camaraderie you get when you're in working as a soldier or in a team that's helping others or any kind of thing like that, or any kind of group. You learn to work as a team. help build one another's strengths and hold each other up when you're weak. And so that was Matthew Pilata and I. We got together, and then my twin brother Guy Dorian came in, and we all we wanted to make comic books, but we wanted to have the freedom to create comic books a certain way with the kinds of stories that we wanted to tell without any need immediately to bring it to any further thing than a comic book. Meaning the story for the sake of the story and the story for the sake of the people. And so we began making stories. Number one, the first thing you have to do is make stories you love.
Yes. Key.
Yeah. Number two, you have to be true to that story and become a part of it. As I mentioned earlier, you got to live in that story. Number three, get people better than you. Get people who are more well-trained or more experienced or more talented and bring them on and help them make you a better version of yourself. We call it in the industry plussing. You want somebody to plus you. As a matter of fact, you want everybody that comes after that next person to plus them. So forgive me, anybody that I miss. Joe Weems, Dean White, Matt Banning, Bill Sienkiewicz, Mark Texiera, Tomeo More, who came in, Chris Sotomayor, Guy Dorian, Sal Buscema, Ross Campbell. There's so many others. I have to tell you, Janice Chang is doing our lettering, and she's my sister from another mister. We are like buddies to the end. We share our baking tips with each other. We share our pictures of our cooking together. We talk about comics, and we talk about who we want to give a good wallop to.
Speaking of wallops, I want to know about your martial arts background, Ian, because it's not just like I do martial arts. I mean, you truly are an incredibly skilled martial artist, sir. And I want to know about that. And as you know, because one of my lead characters, he does his martial arts, and Kate, Billy is he's very serious about it. But for me, both Jason and I are huge, fans of the martial arts and just absolutely love and adore them. And you, sir, are an actual martial artist. So share with us that amazing talent.
First of all, the last few years, I've really focused so much energy on drawing. There's a lot less martial arts going on, just to let you know. And I am not Bruce Lee, okay? He's almost as good as I am. So, no.
I love my Bruce Lee, yes.
We all do.
I know.
What about Bruce wasn't just the martial arts, although he was a creative fighter. I would say what we loved about Bruce Lee more than anything was that he made us feel like we could do it. I mean, he taught everyone. He produced a book, and the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, and he shared it with the world, and that means he believed in us, right. And whether he said it or not. But even in his films, he used his films as a segue or a pathway to teaching a world audience, something you couldn't reach in a small classroom. That being said, some of the instructors that I've trained with, whether it be one day or for years, Dan Inosanto, the head of the Jeet Kune Do, he was the guy who had the red bandana that fought Bruce Lee in the Game of Death. Right. He went to Princeton and do seminar trainings, intensive trainings throughout the weekends, and I would go and live, eat, and breathe Jeet Kune Do. My early Kung Fu teacher, a young guy, 17 years old, but from a family of martial artists, and he had already been training for 10 years or 13 years by the time he was a teenager. Wow. His cousin was from Hong Kong, and which leads me to Grandmaster William Chung, who my brother is an avid student of. And not only that, but my brother went to Australia and taught street combat at his Kung Fu school.
Wow.
Apart from that, I studied Aikido and with Sensei Rick Stickles, who was truly the closest martial arts instructor I've ever had. We were two peas in a pod in many ways and shared lots of stories and jokes. And I had the utmost respect for him, Onigashima Sensei. He sadly passed away, and I do miss him all the time. At some point they become like fathers and friends. Or if it's a female instructor, mothers and friends. Seriously. It's important to note that some of the great Kung Fu styles come from women, and people should recognize that. Then there were some others.
I'm just
there were
taking
some other.
a moment to glow. Because I don't think a lot of people do know that, yeah.
I'm a marble carver and a comic book artist and a dancer and a martial artist and a professor. And I've seen not only a woman, but many women do every one of those things as good or better than me. And anybody out there, no matter what you think, it's true. So just suck it up. Okay. My mother was.
No, thank you. But yes, absolutely. There's so many talented, both men and women out there. And, and it just is inspiring to me to just be surrounded by so many incredible artists and, hear their journeys and their voices and how they've overcome what challenges and opportunities to get to where, they are. And like you said, you never get rid of the doubt and you never get rid of fear. You just kind of say, okay, well, you guys can hang out, but I'm still going to be doing what I'm doing and creating what I'm creating and sharing it, right? Regardless.
That's right. Exactly. So I got the chance, Chris Sotomayor gave me the opportunity to work on Avengers Assemble for their consumer products. And we did what I would say, I don't know if that'd be questionable or not, some viz dev stuff, meaning visual development, where we made some modifications to designs. But overall, I had the chance to do that. And I worked with a few people, one person from Disney, Cindy Bonovsky, and she brought me on and I did rough drawings with her, and I worked on princesses with her. We did some drawings together for Family Guy. Let's see, Simpsons, Family Guy, Rio 2. And Chris Sotomayor, of course, as I mentioned, brought me on to do the Avengers Assemble with my twin brother Guy Dorian. And hey, I didn't think they'd like it with all the other artists they had. They have a great pool to choose from, but whoever's in charge has to like it. And I got through it, and people seem to really care about that a lot. It was only, just to be clear to everybody, it was only 5 weeks of my life. But it's been perpetuated through toys and shirts and hats and books throughout the world. As a matter of fact, a ton of the drawings that I did with my brother and Chris ended up in Disney World in Florida. There's like a superhero room or something.
Right, yes.
I've never been there, but I'm told. A ton of my work is on there, and I'm like, wow, that's so cool. That's awesome. Yes. So then Matthew Pilata and we worked together in a different capacity. I worked with him. We are contractors for the government. We help defend soldiers in forward area or in theater from danger. Utilizing radar detection systems in real time. And identifying by way of vectors. That is for, or at least when I was with him, that's for CRAM, counter rocket artillery and mortar. In any event, outside of that, Jack Kirby was a soldier. He fought in World War II. Stan Lee may not have fought, but he was in the military. And lots of our guys today, lots of guys that I've worked for as an assistant or that work in drawing comics today have served their country. And I was not a soldier. But I did serve my country. And every day you wake up, all I'm going to say is this. If you slept well and you woke up and you're still doing your things the way you did and looking up at your sky and your flag and this and that, somebody was working overtime and overnight to make sure that stayed that way. And I deeply respect those unsung, unknown heroes who may not necessarily be in a uniform, but definitely those in a uniform first, but may not be in a uniform, but their families and their children who have to give up part of their lives and their fathers and their brothers and their mothers and their sisters and their aunts and their uncles and their children for us. And, you tell people you did that kind of work, and a lot of times they get, oh, what are you, a warmonger? Quite the opposite. If you ask anybody, and I'm not just talking about our country, but people all around the world, even soldiers, most of them, they just want peace. They want to go home to their
families. That's what we all want. I think that's a bigger picture, Ian, is that's really what defines what we all want. And that's why, I feel that art is so important. And we talked about this earlier too, that it's so important to have our creative voices and that we can express our views through, our art, our characters to, make people laugh, make people cry, and also make people think. Because even if you're doing comedy, you still make people think, right? It's not always happy, happy, happy. There are definitely moments where you take a pause and it makes you think.
So two things I'm going to say based on what you just said, Mara, which was beautiful. One, Law of Resistance, which is my book that'll be coming out this year, deals with those kinds of issues I just mentioned. And Jim Kruger was the writer. And myself, Jim Kruger, and Matthew Pilato, the three of us co-created and developed Law of Resistance together. And now we're working on Son of Resistance, which is the next part. And it's coming along quite well. Outside of that, about comedy, I love acting. And people don't know this, but one of my big dreams, one of the reasons why I studied Shakespeare and one of the reasons why I acted in Greek tragedy and one of the reasons why I danced was because I loved to perform. And you know what I really wanted to do? SNL. I wanted to be on Saturday Night Live.
That is fantastic.
I would have loved to have been the guy kind of in the background in, say, something like maybe not SNL, but maybe 30 Rock. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in 30 Rock. The guy in the background making the funny noises or something,
doing like something funny in the background in this like crazy tracksuit.
And 30 Rock is my favorite TV show.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. The quirky, intelligent humor beyond compare in my book, because it's very educated and it's high and low brow and comedy. But something about comedy. Comedy isn't necessarily always trying to do something funny. As a matter of fact, if you think about it, the funniest things in life aren't really funny things. They're ironic things.
Right.
Like in the original movie for Parenthood in the 90s or 80s or whatever that was.
Right.
The grandmother, something super brilliant to explain something to her daughter-in-law, and then granddaughter or what have you. And then she goes into the car and they're thinking about how brilliant the grandmother is. And then they turn and look, and outside she's sitting in the neighbor's car.
Right.
So here's this brilliant sensibility coupled with she doesn't even know which car she belongs in.
I know. That was amazing, that scene. Yes.
Irony is funny, and funny is ironic.
Yes.
So you
True.
don't need to necessarily make something slap knee funny to
Right.
need to get to what it is that we deal with, what it is that we experience in our lives every day.
Mm-hmm.
Those things, we hate those things. We get exhausted by those things. And those are the funniest
I
things
know.
in our lives. We want to see them. We want to repeat them ad nauseum because we're just like that to ourselves.
Right.
And we just present it in a way that we can look back and say, that was damn funny.
Right,
You know?
absolutely, absolutely. Even though at the time you're just like, what is happening? But then when you think about it, you're like, wait, I have to write that down. That was funny. Yeah.
I think I have to draw that or I have to perform it.
Right.
But here's the deal. You want fun without words? I can tell everybody how they can get funny. You ready?
Yes, I'm so ready. How can we all be funny? Everyone needs to be funny.
If you want to laugh, just for yourself, all you have to do is open up your high school yearbook. Look at your portrait. You'll find fun. And
That is true.
isn't it worth it to
Yeah.
say, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Hair out to here, hair down like this. What was I thinking? And you know what? It's funny because it's true. And the best part of that is you can laugh at yourself.
Yes.
And that's why I use the analogy. If you can laugh at yourself, you can laugh at the world.
Absolutely.
And that's when you can handle doubt on one side and fear on the other.
Yep.
So just bringing it all together for anybody that's still here listening.
Oh, I'm sure they're still there, Ian. Absolutely. Oh, yes.
As far as my influences,
Yeah.
first and foremost, Renaissance and Baroque art.
Yeah.
I'm a serious fan, and my favorite art to study, to draw with, is by studying sculpture.
Mm-hmm.
I sculpt so I can learn to draw better. And I studied for many years at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Thank you, public donations. Thank you, wealthy individuals who donated to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Thank you, people who had very little money and donated to the museum or paid to get in a little extra than you needed to. Thank you very much to all of you. And thank you for all those people who were in the position to build such a thing so that people like me could get such a free education and training.
That is awesome. And thank you. I just want to say thank you, Ian, for taking the time to really have an incredible talk with me and share all of your insights, your art, your creative process, your talents, what you're working on, which, by the way, everyone's going to be on my website, so you'll get to see all of that. And I'm just literally just taking it all in, and it's just been such a treasure and an honor to have you and to be able to talk with you about everything and to see your wonderful artwork behind you and all of your incredible books. And it definitely, has inspired me as you do. And I have to say, I'm a huge, huge fan of yours, as I'm sure many, many, many people are. And thank you for everything that you do for artists everywhere and that you care so much. And I think that's really what what is just so incredible to me is just listening to you talk. I'm just like smiling because your passion, your enthusiasm, how much you love what you do and how much you love to share that just shines through in everything that you do and say. And thank you so much because I know that you have absolutely inspired me and inspired everybody who's watching this right now. I know that they're like, I am going to go and I'm going to write or I'm going to sketch or I'm going to do something and recognize that that is what I believe, that every person has a piece of artistic, actually a very big artistic part to them, whether it be cooking, whether it be, sketching, writing, drawing, acting, dancing, whatever it is, crocheting, right? There's so much. And that's when you give to your soul. That's what it's about, is nurturing your creative soul.
I just want to leave you with this. Um, One of the things I like to do when people come up to me and tell me how much they love what I do, I ask them what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had a soldier come up to me without half of his hand and tell me how impressed he was by what I do. And I said, listen, man, I just draw it. You lived it.
Mm-hmm.
I draw people going into burning buildings. Other people go into them. I draw heroes saving the ill and the weak. My sister, she does it every day. And those are my heroes. So
Absolutely.
that's what I'm doing.
Well,
Let's
you, sir, are an absolute inspiration. What were you going to say? What were you were on? Were you going to say? Tell me.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, let's all be heroes.
I agree. I'm just like, yes, I agree. And you definitely are, Mr. Ian Dorian. And thank you so much. Thank you so much. I literally could talk to you, Ian, all day. I'm gonna end this, and then I'm gonna continue talking. No, I know that you, sir, have a lot to do as well. Grab your virtual matcha.
Virtual matcha.
And thank you. I know. Make sure it's not too hot. Yeah, perfect. Throw some coconut milk in there. We're golden.
Yeah.
Aw, thank you so much, Ian.
So much.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. And I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining me on Matcha Talk with Ian Dorian. And I hope that you all, and I know you are, as inspired as I am. So thank you, Ian, and go and have an amazing, amazing day, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too, Ian. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me on this wonderful episode of Matcha Talk with the amazing Ian Dorian. I'm so excited to have shared Ian's story with you, and you can find out more about Ian and his work on my website, baddaykate.com. I have a Matcha Talk guest page set up, and you can also go to Matcha Talk's Facebook page. Go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you get to stay in the know for future upcoming guests, and go ahead and give my videos a like. And to find out more about my animated series, Bad Day Kate, and Kate's spin-off series, The Babies, go to baddaykate.com. And until next time, everyone, remember, do what you love and love what you do.